Raider Nation, what's going on? You're watching the Raiders Report, and we do have some potentially breaking news because it sounds like that the Raiders, they are close to a deal with quarterback Marcus Mariota. Yes, the Marcus Mariota that we've been talking about for about, a month now here on the Raiders Report. So we're going to go through the latest around this developing story because, again, nothing is official yet. But you can start to connect the dots through social media and from what we're hearing, and it's looking like the Raiders are going to have a new quarterback or at least a backup quarterback to Derek Carr. So this one's from Mike Garafolo. The Raiders are pushing to close out a deal with quarterback Marcus Mariota, sources tell me, and Rap Sheet in Rappaport. Mike Mayock's #1 ranked quarterback in his NFL Network coverage leading up to the 2015 draft could be soon on the roster. This is interesting because we know the Raiders have at least shown a little bit of interest, at least getting some sort of competition behind Derek. And the interesting thing here with Mariota is maybe we could see a lot different scenario where, we just had Ryan Tannehill go to the Titans, needed the change of scenery. Turned out, guess what? That worked out pretty well. Now, with the Raiders, you can add a mobile quarterback in. For everyone who watches the show, I think we can all agree we need to have at least a little bit more mobility, potentially a little bit more competition for Derek. And I am a believer that if the Raiders go out and land Mariota in free agency, that he is the backup quarterback to Derek Carr. But let's not get it twisted. I also think if I'm Mariota, I'm going to go to Las Vegas and try to create a name for myself because the last time I was out west, I was a Heisman-winning trophy. And I know Mike Mayock, I know John Gruden liked Mariota a lot coming out of college. Yes, basically everyone and their brother loved Mariota coming out of college when he won the Heisman. But I know John loves projects, especially at the QB position. So if this were to go down, I'll tell you what, I wouldn't be totally surprised by it. But Derek's at least going to get a little bit of competition. And for the Raiders defensive coordinators that are facing us, you got to at least start scheming for Mariota because he could have maybe 10 plays, a lot like Taysom Hill. So you're watching the Raiders Report. I've been telling you all for a long time, get the notifications turned on because when stuff like this happens, you want to know about it. So give me your one-word reaction to the Raiders potentially signing quarterback Marcus Mariota. For me, expected. I've been putting out now for about 4 weeks that I could see the Raiders bringing in Mariota to give Carr a little bit of competition. I put out a video on our main Chat Sports channel, 10 quarterbacks and where they could potentially sign. I had Mariota pegged to go to the Raiders, and for those of you that don't believe me, I just posted it on Twitter at Mitchell Renz 365, the video, again, that I showed 4 weeks ago. For this, though, this is, I think, a pretty solid move for the team. It adds a lot of depth at the position, and I get that they added the tender to Peterman, but when you look at some of the domino effects, like Ryan Tannehill getting that 4-year, $118 million deal, we expected Mariota to leave. But the fact that the Titans went out, the fact that the Titans decided to give Tannehill this much money, I mean, you can say what you want about the Titans, you can say what you want about Ryan Tannehill, but him getting $118 million to me just shows how good of a contract right now Derek Carr has, making about $21.5 million. So Carr's still pretty young, age 28, 6 years in the NFL now. I think that this is going to motivate him a little bit. Now, some of you might say, wait a minute, Mitch, maybe them going out getting Mariota, maybe then they could draft a quarterback, like I know Victor Ford has explained a few times in his athletic articles. Maybe the Raiders now bring in Mariota. Maybe the Raiders go out and draft a quarterback and then look to potentially trade Derek Carr. So the first question I'll ask, should the Raiders draft a quarterback? 1 for yes, 2 for no. If you want to be an overachiever, for those of you that are tuned in live right now on YouTube, let me know who you would want them to go out and get. I think if you're going to actually take a quarterback in the first round, I did put out a video on the players that I think are the most likely to be drafted in the first round. I would rather the Raiders take Jordan Love at 19, if we're just being honest, because I think if you want to go get Tua, if you want to get Justin Herbert, you're going to have to trade up for those guys. If you want another project type of quarterback that you could take later on, Jacob Eason's an interesting name. I know Anthony Gordon is an intriguing name as well. And then Jalen Hurts. I've been against the whole Jalen Hurts thing, but if we can get Hurts in the 3rd round, maybe 4th round, I'd be a little bit more on board for it. So Lost Fat Tubby says 2. P. Ramirez says 1. Continue to get your votes in should the Raiders draft a quarterback. So we got some potential news here because there's a report that the Raiders are getting close to signing Marcus Mariota. And once NFL free agency officially opens up on March 18th at 4 p.m., then again, all these deals will technically then be official. So we know that the Raiders have been looking at least for some sort of competition behind Derek Carr, and I know a lot of the loyal watchers here of the show are like, we need somebody that can run, we need a mobile quarterback, and I still think that Mariota, even if he comes to this team, is going to be the backup. And I think that's the role that he needs to fit in, and sure, maybe if Derek struggles, and maybe Mariota, much like Ryan Tannehill when him going to the Titans, maybe he gets a new home, maybe all he needs is a change of scenery. I will say I like the idea, though, of this team going out and getting him because, again, you have to, if you're John and you're Mike, even if he is the backup quarterback, I'm putting Marcus Mariota on the field at least a few times a game, and that's going to make, defensive coordinators have to at least worry about you a little bit. So I would be very intrigued by this move, and I will be 100% honest with you guys. It's not something that totally surprised me. I like Mariota. He's very athletic. Now, I think he needs to get healthy. I think the Titans tried to build a lot of talent around him. He does not have as much talent with the Raiders if this is where he does ultimately come. But to me, it's pretty interesting. So how about this? I'll ask you guys here to weigh in. Should the Raiders sign Marcus Mariota? Y for yes, and for no. It's not looking like it's not official yet, but it is starting to look like that. I'd give it 3.5 Chucky heads at this point, so I'm going to try to do it on my shirt. Does that look okay? About 3.5 Chucky heads. When it becomes 4, I'll let you know. So Y for yes and for no. I see some people say that would be dumb. I don't really know if it would be dumb. Now, it's obviously going to come down to what you pay him, right? Because if you're going to pay, let's say, a quarterback that got signed today that's a backup, Case Keenum. Case Keenum got 3 years, $18 million. If I can get Marcus Mariota for about $6 million a year, I'd be okay with that. I think that's a pretty good signing, and you're not bringing in Mariota to be the starting quarterback over Derek Carr. But if he comes in and outplays Derek at some point, maybe you look to go that route. Now, a lot of people could be saying, wait a minute, maybe you bring in Mariota to draft a quarterback and then trade Derek. I mean, that could potentially happen. We've seen a lot of crazy trades today. But the way that this show is going to work, Y for yes and for no, should the Raiders sign Marcus Mariota, who is coming off a pretty rough year. I mean, let's not get it twisted. He was 2-4 this past season with the Tennessee Titans, and then once the Titans decided to go with Tannehill goes 7-3 in the regular season. He wins 2 very, very clutch playoff games, and it's been kind of a little bit of a spiral down for Mariota, who in 2016, 26 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. I remember him after that year. I was like, he's about to take that next step. And unfortunately, the injuries kind of packed up a little bit, and it just never quite worked out for him. So we'll see what exactly happens with Mariota, and I can guarantee you this. Once this becomes official, we will be talking to you guys through this, so make sure that those notifications are turned on. So let's go through now Derek Carr and Mariota and just look at overall their entire careers. So Derek, 22,793 yards compared to Mariota's. Now, obviously, the number that's not on here that I'm sure some of y'all would probably want are the rushing stats. Now, I will say this. Mariota is obviously a better runner than Derek Carr. However, he has been taken back a step due to the injuries. The only way that I am going to bring in Mariota is if he is fully healthy. The one thing that does kind of scare me with the Raiders signing him right now is the fact that this whole Gobert thing going on. Again, I say Gobert because YouTube doesn't let us talk about that thing that's happening. With NFL players not being able to go in person and get these physicals, that does scare me just a little bit. I will be honest there. But if he's fully healthy, if all he needs is a change of scenery, if we can get a few extra plays in the playbook for him so defensive coordinators have to worry about it, if it lights a fire underneath Carr's butt for a little bit, and if we can do all these things and get him actually at a halfway decent price, I mean, I think it's a pretty good move. Now, you could disagree with me. That's fine. That's what I love doing about this show. And if there's one thing that I've learned about doing the Raiders Report, It's the nation isn't afraid to speak its mind, so I want you to continue to speak your mind. So how about this? I want you to type your votes in. Will the Raiders trade Derek Carr? 4 for yes, 0 for no. I've seen some people already in the comments section that said, wait, if you bring in Mariota, that means that he is going to be the starting quarterback. Then the Raiders could potentially draft a QB, and maybe they move on from Carr. I'm personally not on boat with that. I'm still going to type my 0 for no. I don't think that the Raiders are going to move on from Derek. I don't think that this is a move where the Raiders are trying to replace Derek. I think this is a move where we got to figure out what we have in Carr. We need to light a fire underneath his butt. In case of injury, you have Mariota, and if you can get him for $6-7 million a year, I mean, the dude won a Heisman. The dude has been very, very good early on in this career, and if he can get just a little bit of a change of scenery and a resurgence, we just saw it with Ryan Tannehill. So for everyone that's saying that he's washed up, I don't really, is he washed up? Maybe. But we just saw Ryan Tannehill beat the Baltimore Ravens, beat the New England Patriots in the playoffs, and he just signed a 4-year, $118 million deal. So let's see. We got a lot of zeros coming in here. Derek thing, his job is safe. I still think that Derek Carr's job is safe as well. Daniel Herbert says trade Carr for a second rounder. That could be interesting. I know Mike Mayock has talked about them potentially, bringing in a second-round pick, but, we're going to be talking about it the entire offseason and also during the season. But seriously, the way that I find out the people that are diehard Raider fans are the people that end up watching our shows in the offseason. And I know there's a lot of crap going on right now around the world. And sports, the Raiders Report, it's always been a way for me to get away from it. And I promise you this, okay? I will make this promise to you. I will make videos every single day during this whole Gobert situation. So to stay up to date with the latest Raiders rumors, news, free agency stuff, click the subscribe button, youtube.com/Raiders Report, and turn on the notifications so you know when I go live. Seriously, at times like this is why I started doing my job. And I promise you guys I'm going to be giving you content just to help your mind get off of what's happening just for a little bit. So much love to the nation. Click that subscribe button. So Mike Garafolo, the Raiders are pushing to close out a deal with quarterback Marcus Mariota, sources tell me, and Ian Rappaport. Mike Mayock's number 1 ranked quarterback in his NFL Network coverage leading up to the 2015 draft could soon be on his roster. I like the way that they phrase that there at the end because Mike Mayock's number 1 ranked quarterback. And remember, Mike Mayock was an NFL draft analyst who, him and John Gruden both, liked Marcus Mariota a lot. Am I surprised by that? No, because everyone liked Marcus Mariota. That's why he was drafted 2nd overall behind Jameis Winston in 2015. But I do think it's important to note that I think anytime a certain coach or anytime a GM has a player that they really fell in love with, I think that there's still a want to wonder, what could we potentially do with this player? And the fact that he's only 26 years old, I get it. The injuries are started to pile up a little bit here. But, I mean, it's all going to come down to money, and it's going to be coming down to whether or not he's healthy or not. And if he can learn the system a little bit behind Carr, because I don't personally want to go out and trade for Mariota for him to start right away. That's not what I want because I know how complex Gruden's system can be. If this is what's actually going to happen, let Derek Carr play, let Mariota learn behind him, add a few plays to that playbook, and then let's see what happens. Because this is something that I've talked about. This is something that I think actually makes sense for this team. But it's all going to come down to money. So, as you can see on screen, I would want him as a backup. I would want him to push Carr, and I would want him to help, just create a little bit more fun in that offense. Because I don't think all the dink and dunk is on Carr's fault, but I do think some of it is, and this move would help spruce up a little bit the Raiders' offense. Looks like we got a super chat rolling in here from my man Steve. What up, Steve? Appreciate it. Okay, sign Martavis Bryant and Josh Gordon. So, for those of you that don't know, the new CBA, one of the new rules that went down is now there's no more suspensions for marijuana use. Yes, Martavis Bryant and Josh Gordon, they're 2 names that always pop up, obviously, for these things, but I don't really know if I would want Martavis Bryant because the last time he was with the Raiders, he actually wasn't all that good anyway. And then Josh Gordon, he is a solid player, but I just don't know if I personally would want Gordon, and I don't think Mike Mayock and John Gruden do. They're trying to build a culture. They're trying to do all these right things here around some younger players, and I think that Mike and John have enough confidence in themselves to be able to go out in this year's draft class, bring in some good receivers because this is a very deep draft class, instead of going out and trying and crossing your fingers and signing a player like a Bryant or a Josh Gordon, who you probably would have to pay a lot more than any player you're going to go out and draft this year. But again, Steve, appreciate the super chat. You're not the first person that has asked me that question. We got another super chat rolling in here from Kelly. What up, Kelly? Has Mariota fumbled out of the end zone? Joke. So this is a joke because Carr twice has basically reached for the pylon and then it's gone into the end zone. Honestly, I don't know, but I do know this one funny thing. The last game that John Gruden has ever covered for the NFL when he used to be, the analyst, the broadcaster, was the game where Marcus Mariota threw a touchdown pass to himself. If you don't remember it, he threw it off the back of somebody, caught it, dove into the end zone. He's an athletic quarterback, but Derek Carr is a better quarterback than Marcus Mariota. Let's get that straight right now. Okay, so we talked about Marcus Mariota potentially coming to the Raiders. Now's your chance to get your questions on our show. So I want you to use #Raiders to get your comments, your questions on air. We'll go through as many as we possibly can. So make sure that you're using #Raiders, or you can super chat, because that might be the other best way to get on the show. So Jermaine, with a mouthful of a last name, get a pick. We want Corey Littleton. So I tweeted out that it's really hard to tweet with your fingers crossed, but I'm going to keep my fingers crossed until we get Corey Littleton, because we already went out today, got Nick Kwiatkowski, who I think is going to be a little bit more of a middle linebacker, solid pass rusher. And if you want to pair Kwiatkowski with a great linebacker, I actually think Littleton and Kwiatkowski would be a great 1-2 combo. You put Littleton on the outside linebacker, basically where, Tahir played a little bit last year. And Littleton, I'll say, is the best coverage linebacker in free agency right now. And then you have Kwiatkowski, who can rush the passer, who can also play that middle linebacker role. If you're telling me I could get both of those players, man, I'm telling you what right now, I would be totally on board for that. So, yes, we want Littleton. And if you want Littleton, let's get some L's in the comments section. Let's go to Plays Sports Report. More of a Chat Sports Report fan. Is the new Taysom Hill? Is he the new Taysom Hill? No, I don't think he is the new Taysom Hill. I'll say this. I think Mariota is a combination of Taysom Hill and kind of like Tim Tebow, where they're not Tim Tebow and Taysom Hill. They're athletes, okay? They can run the football. They're a little bit thicker. They can also catch the ball. For me, I'm going to bring in Mariota. I think you're going to try to make him a quarterback first. But for this year alone, I think that what you need to do is just, maybe add a few extra plays in there. I know Gruden really liked Mariota's ability to do some option plays from Mariota. Maybe you see some of that as well. I don't think I'm going to go with the new Taysom Hill, though. Let's go with Sean. What up, Sean? Any word on Chris Harris? Any news on Chris Harris? Not really. But I will say this. I think now that Harris is the number one free agent target at the cornerback position for the Raiders, or you could be looking at a player like Trey Waynes, could also be an option there. But the fact that Byron Jones signed a 5-year, $82.5 million deal with the Dolphins, or agreed to a deal with the Dolphins for $82.5, $57 million guaranteed, makes me think now 31-year-old Chris Harris is probably the top option for the Raiders at cornerback. Let's now go to James G. The Mariota thing isn't true, is it? So it's not official yet, but in terms of it being true, yes, it is true. So it's been reported that the Raiders, they're apparently getting close to closing out a deal with Marcus Mariota. This is from multiple sources. This is from Jerry McDonald. I've seen it from Vic DeFore. I've seen it from Rappaport. I've seen it from Mike Garafolo. So there's some very, very credible people here talking about the Raiders are about 3.5 Chucky heads close to bringing in Mariota to be a backup quarterback to Carr. You could also look at him competing with him, but I personally think that he'd be better off as a backup, because I don't know with the first year in Vegas if I would want a brand new quarterback stepping in right away, because Gruden's system is not easy to learn. Not easy to learn. Let's go to Richard. What up, Rich? Trade for A.J. Green. So I know a lot of people like A.J. Green, and I know it was a player that we talked about a bunch during our free agency segments, but for me, I don't want to go out and trade for a player who I can't give a physical to, right? I mean, right now with the whole Gobert situation, A.J. Green didn't play last year. Yes, there is no doubt when he's on the field he's super talented, but you're going to have to probably give up, I don't know, I mean, DeAndre Hopkins did basically go for a second today, so anything's possible. But you're going to have to pay A.J. Green a lot of money. Plus, you're going to have to give up some draft capital. With as deep as what the draft is this year, I'd rather just invest in the draft and let A.J. Green go. Let's go to Machines of God. Mitch, your shirt is awesome. When will you be able to buy shirts like that? I'd buy one for Chucky Heads. Believe it, baby. I think that's more of a question for the bosses. So if anybody wants the For Chucky Head shirt, DM me on Instagram at Mitchell Renz 365. We'll see if we can cook up something for you. So we'll do our best. But appreciate you. Appreciate everyone who watches the show. There's also a back. It says Believe It Baby on the back. So with the number 4, wonder if I can. Here, you know what? It's my show. I can do what I want. Believe it, baby. So we'll try to get some shirts out. We'll try to see what we can do there. We'll talk to the bosses here at Chat Sports. Let's go to the next question. If I can get my suit on. What do we got? Comment? Cool. At number 4, will the Raiders trade Derek Carr? I want you to give me a 4 for yes. Give me a 0 for no. If you want to be an overachiever and you want to let me know why you're voting for what, please do it. I always appreciate that. We have Sean. He says 0. Mike says 0. Jason Bates says 4. Antonio says 0. Here come the votes. Woo! Macias says 0. I'm seeing some 4s from a lot of other people now. Oh, boy. 4 for 2 says 4. Kelly Nicholson, 4. Let's see what else we got here. Sean Shepard, why are the Dolphins doing us dirty? Very true. Alex, Kelly, Effa, they're all going to say 4. Let me know then who you would want or what you would want in return from Derek Carr, because I would rather, that whole, what am I trying to say? If the Raiders are going to trade him, I want at least a second-round pick, so that's something to take note of. Let's go to Jason Bates here. Would you consider trading DC to the Bears for a second-round pick, then trade up for a Simmons? So that would give the Raiders then, I put this idea out there before, and I asked the nation, would you take 2 second-round picks for Derek Carr? And it was pretty split, 50-50. I mean, if the Raiders go out and they get a second-round pick, so the Bears' picks are 43 and 50. If we have a 12 and 19, let's say 43, and then 3 third-round picks, it would be intriguing. However, I don't think that one's going to happen. But would I take a second-round pick for DC? I'm going to say no. Personally, I'm going to say no. Let's go to Sean. What up, Sean? Why the Dolphins doing us dirty? So, I don't know if you're talking about the whole Byron Jones, getting his 5-year, $82.5 million deal. I did see this, and I'm glad I was going to put this in the... So, Mike Garafolo, this just came out. More on, the details about the Dolphins and Byron Jones. So, apparently, the Raiders offered Byron Jones a huge deal as well, and sources say the Raiders offered more money per year than the Dolphins, but we often focus on that metric. But in the case, Miami's offer was much more front-loaded. He gets $40 million over the first 2 years. So from what it sounds like, the Raiders offered Byron Jones more money per year, but the Dolphins were willing to give him more money up front. So therefore, he goes to the Miami Dolphins, where he's going to get $40 million the first 2 years, but $57 guaranteed. So I know a lot of people were wondering, why didn't the Raiders maybe look into getting Jones? They were very active in getting Jones, but from what it sounds like, it looks like the Dolphins were willing to give him more money up front, which is pretty interesting considering the fact that he, from what it sounds like, would have made more money per year if he would have signed with the Las Vegas Raiders. Byron, I'll be honest, I think you're going to regret that playing for Miami instead of Las Vegas. I'm just saying. Let's go to Abram. Mitch, do you think we're going to get a free agent wide receiver? I think we could go out and potentially get a cheaper free agent wide receiver. Like, I know Emmanuel Sanders, he's still out there. I know some people, heck, Amari Cooper, he's still out there. If I'm thinking about what the Raiders potentially are going to do, the cheaper option for me, I look at players like a Laquan Treadwell, who, yes, isn't the best receiver, but he can block, and I know Mike Mayock really liked Treadwell when he first came out of Ole Miss. I'll give you a sleeper name. I'll give you a name. You could look at a player like Brashad Perriman. He's a deep threat, which I know they definitely want to add. Maybe even a Tajay Sharp. Mike Mayock was really, really high on Tajay Sharp when he first came out of the draft as well. I still think that this team really wants to invest, though, in wide receivers in the draft. For you, everyone watching, if you bleed silver and black, now's your chance to subscribe to the #1 YouTube channel for all Raiders content. I am this close to getting to 40K subscribers. When I hit 10K, I dyed my hair. When we did 20, I gave tickets away for Monday Night Football. 30K, we did Edward 40 hands on my Instagram. I don't know what I'm going to do for 40K yet, but I do know this. I'm going to continue to make videos every single day because I do think it's important during the offseason and during this whole Go Bears situation that you guys get content. So I'm going to continue to do my best to make sure that you're up to date and at least entertained. Hit that subscribe button. Let's go to Yogurt Milk. I've never seen this name on my channel. Do you subscribe? What other positions should we sign in free agency? I mean, if I'm the Raiders, I'm looking at safety, right? I mean, you could let Carl Joseph. Obviously, he's testing the market. Could potentially bring him back. You could also look at a sneaky name there in a Trey Boston. He's a player to keep in mind. I would say, though, it's cornerback and it's linebacker. Those are right now our two biggest needs. You could also see them maybe going out and getting a Malik Collins at defensive tackle, a DJ Reader potentially also, since the Texans aren't going to bring him back. The Raiders have major needs at defensive line, but for me, I want them to invest in defense. Defense. Let's go to Victor. What up, Vic? Cornerback in the draft, maybe trade up for Jeff Okudah. So I think if you're going to go up and get Jeff Okudah, you're probably going to have to get up into that 3-4 range, and I like Jeff Okudah a lot. I know John Gruden asked him, are you from planet Earth, because he's that much of a freak athlete. But if we're going to trade up for Jeff Okudah, I would rather the Raiders trade up for Isaiah Simmons because I think it's going to cost just about the exact same. And I think Isaiah Simmons fills a lot more of my needs. But, I mean, hey, if Jeff Okudah somehow slides a little bit and maybe the Raiders trade up and Isaiah Simmons is gone, it'd be interesting. But for me, I'd rather trade up for Isaiah Simmons. Let's go Ricardo E. Now that the Cowgirls tagged Prescott, if Cooper leaves, do you think that they will keep Byron Jones? So, Byron Jones has gone to the Miami Dolphins for 5 years, 82.5, 57 guaranteed. Also important to note, the Raiders did try to get Byron, but he chose the Dolphins and the front-loaded contract over the Raiders. The interesting thing is what's going to happen now with Amari, who is the top free agent wide receiver, but I think we can all agree, I don't want Amari Cooper. Let's go to 87, J-Rod 1. With these defensive signings that may happen, does this mean the Raiders will draft a receiver at 12? Oh, and screw it. The winners for the 13th pick. And the Niners for that 13th pick. So, I know, Whiners, Niners, I can't read. I also can read. Oh my gosh. Ron Burgundy, it way too hard. So, the 49ers, they made a move today. They shipped away Buckner, and they got the 13th pick. I want the Raiders to hang on to the 12th pick. I really, really do. And I think if the Raiders are going to move any picks, I think it's the most likely is the 19th pick where they could potentially trade back and maybe acquire an early second and a late first from a team that's looking to trade up. I think that's a little bit more likely. So 87 J-Rod 1. Hopefully that answers your question. Let's go to James. James, everyone in the comments, tell James what he needs to do. Come on, do it. Every single person tell James what he needs to do. Speaking of James, kind of sounds like it. Jamie Collins, he's headed to the Lions, 3 years, $30 million. So there's another kind of stand-up linebacker, if you will, that the Raiders will not be able to get. When will we address our cornerback issues? Either in the draft. I would say the draft is a potential. You could look at like a C.J. Henderson, I think is a player who really dominated at the Combine, and I know the Raiders are high on. But in terms of free agency, I mean, I've made videos on the top free agent targets at the cornerback position that the Raiders could go out and get. Right now, for me, it's probably between Trey Waynes and Chris Harris. I would say probably the most two likely cornerbacks, big-name quarterbacks the Raiders could go out and get. Let's go to Michael. What up, Mike? What do you think of Chase Claypool, the big receiver from Notre Dame? Claypool's interesting to me, and I think he's kind of similar, not quite as athletic as an Evan Ingram, but he was a clear Combine winner. He's a player that I talked about here on the Raiders Report as well. I think if the Raiders go out and get Claypool, I don't really know if they use him as much as a wide receiver, and maybe you're a Notre Dame fan. I think Claypool is going to be kind of like a more swing tight end than a true wide receiver in the NFL. That's how I think he profiles the best, but let's get one thing straight. Claypool and Calvin Johnson are the only two players to ever do the NFL Combine over, I believe, 235 pounds at the wide receiver position to run under a 4.4540. I believe that's the stat. I believe that's it. Let's go to Sean. Looking a lot like the Joker. Trade pick 19 for Darius Slay. I'm going to actually say no to that. And the reason why I'm going to say no to that is because if you're going to bring in Darius Slay, you're also going to have to give him 15, 16 million, in my opinion. For me, that's not what I want to go out and pay Slay. I'd rather hold on to pick 19. And if you really, really want to spend big in free agency at the cornerback position, I'll say this. I think you hold on to your money and you go out and try to get Jalen Ramsey, who has said before that he has wanted to be a Raider. So I like the idea of Darius Slay. He's been a good corner, but when I think about the future of this team, Darius Slay is not the future of the Raiders. So I'm going to hang on to pick 19. Let's go to Keith. Mitch, I see this Mariota move similar to the hiring of Rod Marinelli. Mayock and Gruden are trying to light a fire underneath Gunther. Now it looks like Carr as well. What do you say? I actually think it's a great comparison. I think that's such a good comparison because if you don't have faith in Gunther, I know Rod Marinelli can step in and be a good defensive coordinator. It's the exact same thing with this, where if Derek can't get it done, we can all agree Mariota would be one of the best backup quarterbacks in the NFL. I think that's one of the reasons why you go out and bring him in, to be a backup quarterback where if it doesn't really work out with Carr, it's a 2020 prove-it year, and if it's just not quite connecting the dots for him, then yeah, maybe you make the move to Mariota, maybe you light a little bit of a fire. So should the Raiders sign Marcus Mariota, I want you to give me a Y for yes, or I want you to type your N for no. For me, I am going to type my Y for yes. I do think that the Raiders should sign Mariota if it is a similar contract to like a Case Keenum in terms of money, because I don't want to bring in Mariota for more than $7 million. That's not what I want. Case Keenum signed today a contract, $18 million over 3 years. If we can get Mariota for maybe, let's say, a 2-year deal around $6-7 million, I would totally be on board for that. And then what does that add to your offense? That adds an extra, I think, 10, 20 plays that defensive coordinators have to spend time worrying about. You can put Derek Carr and Mariota on the field at the same time. Both have the ability to throw the football. And yes, if maybe you're in some crazy situation where you need to pick up a yard, you put Mariota and Josh Jacobs out there on the field at the same time. What do we see? Mobile quarterbacks do help the running game. That's a fact. But if by bringing in Mariota, I am typing my Y for yes because I still would want him to be the backup quarterback to Derek. Because I challenge anybody, seriously, I challenge anyone right now to go find a quarterback. Find me 15 quarterbacks that are better than Derek Carr at his value at $21.5 million. Because realistically, $21.5 million for a starting quarterback in the NFL, that's very good. Very, very good. So Y for yes, and for no. We got about 757 people watching us live right now on YouTube. I appreciate that. And Thumper World, Ole, David, Shelley, seeing a lot of yes, only for backup. I'm with you there. Tua is better and he will be cheap. Tua, I don't really understand that comment. I mean, if you want Tua, you got to give up pick 12 and 19, in my opinion. And maybe then some to go up and get Tua. To me, that ain't cheap. Let's go to Macias_1415. Remember, we are live here on the Raiders Report channel. Make sure that your notifications are turned on. And make sure that you're subscribed to the channel so when we do live videos during free agency, you can get your questions up here on the show. The 2 ways to get your questions up on the show is to use hashtag Raiders, okay, and to super chat. Will they bring back Antonio Brown? Can everyone, I mean, this is perfect. Before producer Brett even put it up on the screen, y'all know what to do. When somebody mentions Antonio Brown, or for some reason, we've been having some weird, thirsty bots come on our channel. I want people to type FAB, okay? Anytime AB's on here, and any single time we see some thirsty bots, type FAB, because I don't want them. I don't want Antonio Brown. I don't want his craziness. The guy hasn't played in the NFL for a whole year. So for me, nah. I'm good, man. I'm really good on that. You know what I would love, though? Some Pringles. Sounds pretty good. What do you think of that Pringles guy? With Byron Jones off the board, who do you want the Raiders to get in the corners? I think Trey Waynes is an interesting player. I'll also throw out this name, Kendall Fuller. So Kendall Fuller to me was an interesting prospect because he was one of the best players at cornerback when he played for the Chicago Bears. Then he tried to transition to safety with the Chiefs, and that really didn't work all that well. It kind of reminds me a lot of LaMarcus Joyner. If you want to go out and get a younger player who I think can play that nickel cornerback position well and could probably do it on a 1-year prove-it deal because he is coming off a bit of a down year, I'll take Kendall Fuller. And if you want to check out more players that I think the Raiders should target in free agency, I did put out a top 25 list. I would say 20 of those players are still available. Let's go to James G. What do you think? Cornerback Desmond Trufant. Trufant is just a name. So today, Desmond Trufant, he was released by the Atlanta Falcons, and he played in only like half the games last year, but gave up like 600 yards. For context, Byron Jones played in all 16 games last year and gave up about 370. Yes, they're much different players. Yes, Desmond Trufant is a big name, but I don't want Desmond Trufant to be in silver and black. Let's go to Jay Dizzle. Faux shizzle. It's an interesting picture of Tom. What about Xavier Rhodes? I know a lot of people like Xavier Rhodes, and I understand that he made the Pro Bowl last year. Oh, my goodness. But go watch the film. Xavier Rhodes was not good last year. And for those of you PFF truthers out there as well, I'll back up PFF on this. Xavier Rhodes was not good last year. He definitely slowed down a bit. And when I see players who aren't good on elite defenses, that worries me. I do not want Xavier Rhodes on the Raiders this upcoming year. Let's go to Rogers the Iceman Smith Jr. Are you related to Becky the Icebox? Maybe we could sign her. If you can name that movie in the comments, my hat, I tip to you. Is it possible to sign Coop, draft Judy, and Ruggs with 12 and 19? Is it possible? Sure. Do I want the Raiders to sign Amari Cooper? Because if you're going to go out and get Amari Cooper, I think at this point, it's probably going to cost you $19 million. We already did that. Amari didn't want to play for the Raiders. So for that reason, I'm good because I want players who want to be on this team. Amari doesn't want to be on the Raiders. So for that reason, no. But if we were to go get Coop, I don't see why we then would spend money on Judy and Ruggs at 12 and 19. Right now, though, if we don't sign any receivers in free agency, I'd be okay with Judy and Ruggs at 12 and 19. Let's go to George W. Are you the first or the second? What do you think is the next move for the Raiders in free agency? I think the next move for the Raiders in free agency is Marcus Mariota going to the Raiders. So they are getting really, really close to this deal, and I know that this is something that we've talked about. I gave it to Chucky Heads about 4 weeks ago, and then I talked about it about a week ago on our main NFL channel over on Chat Sports, that I think the Raiders are going to go out and sign Marcus Mariota. So this isn't official yet, but this is the tweet from Garofolo about, I'll say, 45 minutes ago. The Raiders are pushing to close out a deal with Mariota, sources tell me, and Ian Rappaport, Mayock's number one receiver in the 2015 class. And he is coming off a little bit of a down year. He was 2-4 last year with the Titans. But I think what we've seen so far is and it's official. Breaking news, the Raiders and Marcus Mariota, they have a deal. So this is 100% official. What I want everyone to do right now, and I will promise you I will retweet it, and I will put it on my Instagram. Take a screenshot, and I want you to @ me on Twitter, and I want you to tag me on Instagram. The first person to do it, you're getting a retweet, and you're getting a share of my story, because it is now official. The Raiders have signed quarterback Marcus Mariota, have agreed to a deal, haven't signed yet. Again, this is the tampering period. It'll become official March 18th at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. We don't have all the deals yet, but once I do get the deals to this, we will get it for y'all, okay? So this is official. Raiders, they're going to have a quarterback with Marcus Mariota. This one is from Ian Rappaport. So what's your one-word reaction to the Raiders signing Mariota? One-word reaction. You're not going to like it. I'm going to say expected. This is something that I've expected now for about 4 weeks. I'll also say this. I was actually going to say serviceable. All right, Space Star 28. I'm into it. So I think this is one of those moves where you're going to bring him in to compete with Derek. Of course, you're going to bring him in to compete with Derek. But if they don't get him if they paid over $8 million, I'll actually be a little bit upset with this move. But you're going to have him come in, give him some plays. Let's see what happens. But for him to come in, push Derek Carr, be the backup quarterback, I don't think it's a bad move. I see some people saying, yeet, you can't swear. When you swear, it gets blocked. I think if Mariota can come in and get a little bit of a change of scenery, I think we'll all be a little bit surprised that this actually isn't that bad of a move. So Space Star 28, I see you. So we do have some breaking news here on the Raiders report. The Raiders have signed. It is official. Not official. God. It's official that the Raiders have agreed to terms with Marcus Mariota, but it will become official March 18th, 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Once we get the official contract details, I will update you guys. I promise you 100%. So for me, I would want the Raiders to bring in Mariota as a backup. Once we find out what the official plan is here, I will keep you updated. But if there is one thing that I know, it is that the Raiders have officially agreed to the terms with Mariota, so he will be in silver and black this upcoming season. And I know now the rumors that are going to be swirling around are, what's his role? Does this mean the Raiders are going to move on from Derek Carr? Does this mean the Raiders are going to draft the quarterback to pair with Mariota? It's all going to be questions. It's all going to be comments that we'll talk about, I promise you, aplenty on the Raiders report. For me, this move means one thing. You put him at the quarterback 2, you put him behind Derek, and you let him compete. Because I am totally okay with the idea of Marcus Mariota competing with Derek Carr, with them adding more plays, with them just sprucing up their playbook, and I mean this just a little bit, because that's all I need. Is just a little bit more spruce to this offensive playbook. And if you can make defensive coordinators worry just a little bit about the idea of Mariota coming into the game once in a while, it's even going to open you up a little bit in the red zone, I think. Or was one area where the Raiders really, really struggled last year, it was in the red zone. And I am a believer that if you put him out on maybe a 4th and 1 situation, or if you're 4th and goal, 3rd and goal, you might think I'm crazy for saying this. You put Mariota in the backfield with Josh Jacobs. Mobile quarterbacks help running backs. That's a fact. Go back and look at any mobile quarterback and then the running back. They benefit. You want to run a read option? You want to run some bubble screens with him? I think it's going to update a lot, and I think it's going to really, really help, this team move the football and maybe pick up some clutch first down. So this is definitely a really, really interesting move here by the Raiders, but it's expected. I've talked about it now for about 4 weeks here on the Raiders report. So continue to get your comments weighed in here because, yes, this is official. The Raiders are getting Mariota. Once we get the official contract details, we'll get them up on screen for you all. So, again, Mariota is going to be a Raider. It sounds pretty crazy to say. But I think this is one of those where, again, you got to connect the dots a little bit. You got to go back and look at earlier today when Ryan Tannehill, 4 years, $118 million. He gets, a fat contract. But I want people who are saying there's no way that the Raiders are making a good move here and there's no way that Mariota can ever bounce back. People said the exact same thing about Tannehill. Tannehill was in a bad situation with the Dolphins. Now, I don't think Mariota was in a bad situation in Tennessee. But I do think that Tannehill is the proof where if sometimes all you need is a little bit of a change of scenery and good things can happen. So I know this rumor is going to start swirling around because that the Raiders, when you go out and you get a quarterback, people are going to start pointing the finger at Derek Carr. So could potentially the Raiders go out and grab a quarterback because now there's a report that the Raiders are shopping Carr. We've seen that the reports, they started at the NFL Combine where the Raiders could potentially move on from Derek Carr. So you go out, like Mayock, John Gruden, go out and get their top quarterback back in 2015. And now you have him on the roster. And now that there's been rumors surfacing that they could go out from Vic to 4 and get a quarterback in the first round. So you pair Mariota, a quarterback in the first round. What does that leave Carr? If the Raiders go out and draft a quarterback now and sign Mariota, yeah, I think it'd be time to move on from Derek. So should the Raiders draft a quarterback, I want you to give me a 1 for yes and a 2 for no. And coming up here in just a little bit, I'm going to ask you what they should do with Derek. Because I can guarantee you, okay, don't get mad at me because I'm going to be talking about it now. But when people are going to be talking about the Raiders drafting a quarterback and moving on from Derek, it is my job to talk about it. Let's get that straight. And I'm going to give you my opinion. So 1 for yes or a 2 for no. Should the Raiders draft a quarterback? 1 for yes, 2 for no. I'll say I think now with the Raiders tendering Peterman, I believe it was a 5th-round tender. And now with them signing or agreeing to a deal with Mariota, I'm going to vote my 2 for no because I still want Derek to be the starting quarterback. But if they go out and Derek's still on the team and they draft a quarterback, I think that means you got to move on from him. So I'll say this, Raiders, if you do plan on moving on from Derek Carr, you better do it before the draft. So for me, I'm going to type my 2. So with this move, the Raiders now, I think that they're going to lock up this backup quarterback position. You bring in a quarterback who Mike Mayock had rated as his number 1 quarterback back in 2015. He had him rated over Jameis Winston, and I think that does mean a lot because what is something that John loves? When John used to do the quarterback camp, he ranted and raved about Mariota and all the things that an offensive coordinator, head coach would be able to do with him. If you're going to bring him in, you better use him, and I do anticipate the Raiders using him. So I want you guys to subscribe to the Raiders Report. We are the number 1 most watched Raiders YouTube channel right now, and it's because of the nation. I appreciate y'all very much. I appreciate the people that have the notifications on. I will say this, though. I did find out that only 53% of my views come from subscribers. So I promise that I'm going to make videos during this whole Go Bear. That's the you know what we can't say. This whole, I guess, ordeal. I do this for y'all. I appreciate y'all. And I want you to be safe in mind, being able to watch stuff at home, but also staying up to date with the Raiders. So if you want the latest news, rumors, and if you want things like, I don't know, Nick Kwiatkowski going to the team, Marcus Mariota going to the team, these are things that I've been talking about for the last 4 weeks. So hit that subscribe button. Turn on the notifications, okay? Much love. All right, let's look at some career stats here between Carr and Mariota. I think when you look at both players, very, very different players, because Carr, his first year, didn't come out that hot. Mariota, on the other hand, I think his best year was back in 2016, and obviously the numbers that we don't have on screen are his rushing ability, but that's why I think he's being brought onto the team, right? I mean, his ability to be able to run the football, and I think it's going to be his ability to get on the field, I'll say 5, 6, 7 times a game, honestly, and maybe run a little bit of an option with Josh Jacobs. Even if every single time he comes on the field, we hand it to Jacobs, I'm okay with that. I am. Sure, it takes Carr off the field for a little bit, but that's the only way that you're going to bring in Mariota is to help him compete with Carr, to add a few extra plays to your playbook. I do also think this, though, I think this even makes it even more less likely that the Raiders go out and get Tom Brady. That makes everyone happy, right? Tuck rule, tuck that. Because I see some people commenting, Tom Brady. I'm also seeing some people talking about Vic Beasley. So I appreciate everyone who's tuned in. I appreciate everyone who's got the noties on. We got 952 people watching right now. I think if maybe we do a little bit of a, I'm being told we might do a challenge. Maybe a challenge would be a good thing to do with 958 people on here. We'll have some fun. Whatever it's going to be, throw it up there. I'm okay with it. He's thinking. What challenge should we do? You want me to chug something? Do you want me to do something ridiculous on screen? If we can get the 40K subscribers by tonight, oh man. I don't know what I'll do yet, but I'll have something very, very special. If you guys want to get your recommendations in, hey, go for it. I'm all aboard that train. So we got 944 people watching right now. And the rumor that's going to start circulating, somebody said chug a Four Loko. I mean, if somebody wants to run down to 7-Eleven real quick, I'd be on board for it. But, so we need 152 more subscribers to get to 40K. And apparently, I'm the one doing the math because apparently it's wrong. 252. So look at that. So we need 252 more subscribers till I'm at 40K. So, for example, at 10K subscribers, I dyed my hair gray. At 20K subscribers, we gave away tickets to the Monday Night Football game for Week 1. Shout out to my man Kev. 30K, I did Edward 40 hands. That video is on my Instagram, at Mitchell Renz 365. Go check it out. I don't know what I'm going to do for 40K yet. If you guys have some suggestions, throw them in the comments. But I can guarantee you one thing. We're going to be doing a lot of news. We're going to be doing a lot of rumors. And now the fact that they have officially agreed to terms with Mariota, there is going to be a lot of rumors around Derek Carr. So all I ask is you don't get mad at me. You listen to what I have to say and at least take it with a grain of salt because this show is all about discussion. So we need 233 more subscribers to get to 40K. 40K. So right now, about, I'll say 10 minutes ago, the Raiders, they're getting Marcus Mariota. They have agreed to terms of a deal. This deal has not been, we don't have the details yet, unfortunately. But when free agency officially kicks off, which is, again, March 18th at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, that's when this will be official. Right now, it is only the legal tampering, okay? Legal tampering. So, Mariota, He's a Raider. Now I'm going to ask you how y'all are feeling about this whole situation. So if you have any questions, if you have any comments, let's say about free agency, trades, Mariota, Derek Carr, now's your time to do it. I hope the Mariota contract isn't ridiculous. To get your questions here on the show, Super Chat, and to use hashtag Raiders. I agree with you. I hope the Mariota contract isn't ridiculous either. I'm hoping it's a lot in the Case Keenum range where it's $6-7 million a year. And for me, I would want about 2 years. 2 years. Let's go to LOE Doughboy. Marcus versus Derek upside. You might not like what I'll say. I still think Derek has better upside. And because I just think he's a better quarterback overall than Mariota. Now, Mariota, is 26. Derek's 28. I just don't think Mariota right away in year one is what this team needs. So I'm still going to stick with Derek Carr in terms of upside because Derek has played at an MVP caliber level when he's had talent around him. I don't think Marcus Mariota has ever been MVP caliber. That's what I'll say. Let's go to stumbling upward. Is it possible to have dual quarterback starters like we did before? I'm also the believer where if you have 2 quarterbacks, you have no quarterbacks. I still want Derek Carr out on the field like 99% of the time. Mariota is only on the field 4 or 5 plays. Maybe you got to pick up a clutch first down. Maybe you got to pick up a 3rd and goal, 4th and goal situation. And he's also just on the team, so defensive coordinators have to worry about him a little bit. Like, I am a fan of Mariota. I'm a fan of what he's going to be able to do now with this offense. But in terms of him getting on the field and splitting reps with Derek, that I don't like because that's also really going to hurt your ability, I think from a wide receiver standpoint, to build chemistry with the quarterback. And if we're going to bring in young players, if we're going to bring in potential free agents to be able to catch the ball from DC or Mariota, you got to really just kind of be able to build chemistry. It's super important, especially in a sport like football. I mean, look at the Browns last year. They had all the talent in the world, couldn't win football games. Why? Didn't work together, didn't have chemistry. Why did we play well this year? And I'll be honest, we didn't have as much talent, but we won football games because this team bought into the culture and they bought into a system. That's why we won football games. Let's go to NVD Money. MM8, Marcus Mariota, was not good fit in Tennessee. He had 5 different OCs. Tell what successful quarterback has had 5 different OCs with one team. It's a great point. My counter argument to that would be they put so much talent around him. And also Ryan Tannehill looked pretty okay with that talent as well. So I get your point. I think Mariota's biggest concern was he wasn't fully healthy. And once he got afraid to run because he wasn't fully healthy, he was a different quarterback. That's what I think the bigger issue was. Let's go to Brian. What up, Brian? I'm going to Twitter to see how many people tweeted at me the picture of Mariota. We'll see. Carr has still got what it takes. Mariota is a lightning rod under DC's booty. I agree. I still think that Carr has what it takes. I still think that you need to build, you got to put some offensive weapons around both these players. But I like the idea of Mariota coming in and running the football with Josh because I've probably said it now 10 times. Mobile quarterbacks help running game. That's a fact. And if we can come in and have Mariota help out a running game, I'm all on board for that. We do have a super chat, and I'm telling you, the rumors, they're going to start rolling in from William Blair. William, my man, appreciate you. I think that they are shipping Carr out. So with the Raiders bringing in Mariota, with the Raiders giving Peterman, I believe, a 5th-year tender, it's going to bring a lot of question around him, especially because there are rumors that the Raiders could go out and draft a quarterback early in the first round. We've seen it from Vic DeForest, some credible sources out there. I am still a believer that they're not going to do it. I would be pretty surprised if the Raiders decided to move on from Carr. But I will say his contract is very favorable for another team. Because remember, the Raiders, they already gave Carr $2.9 million. So if a team wants to go out and get Derek, it's only going to cost them about $19. And for a quarterback the caliber of Derek Carr at $19 million, that's very, very favorable. So I want you guys to hit that subscribe button. It's big. It's red. It says subscribe. YouTube.com/Raiders Report. We'll put it in the comments section on YouTube. But click the button. Stay up to date with the latest Raiders news and rumors. We're going to do live shows. I'm getting close to 40K. I don't know what exactly I'm going to do for 40K, but we're going to have some fun here. Maybe we'll just send some random guy, I don't know, $40 on Venmo. If we hit it tonight, we'll do something also fun as well. So my Venmo is at Mitchell Renz 365, so I'll make you a deal. if we hit 40K subscribers by the end of this live stream, okay, I'm going to send I'll send one random person that follows me on Instagram right now $40 on Venmo, okay? So follow me on Instagram at Mitchell Renz 365, and if we hit 40K subscribers, I'm going to send one random person $40. But that's not how I'm going to celebrate. We're going to do some more stuff as well. So if you want to add me as a friend on Venmo, again, I'm everywhere at Mitchell Renz 365. So we did see a lot of questions come in, and if I missed them, I'm sorry. There's a lot that came in. So if you didn't get your question answered, you can DM me at Mitchell Renz 365 on Instagram, or I'll give you the next 10 seconds to send in a super chat. So you can do that. And if not, I am pretty excited to see what free agency is going to hold. I'm going to tell you all right now to go check out our main Chat Sports channel. Just type in Chat Sports on YouTube. It'll come up. We're going to be live for free agency tomorrow. But turn on the notifications, y'all. This is the time of the year to do it. And make sure you subscribe to our channel. It's youtube.com/Raiders Report. And I'll say it one more time. If I missed your question, I'm going to go on my phone right now and answer them on Instagram. It's at Mitchell Renz 365.